Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining me today on another Lifting the Curtain interview. Today, I'm talking to Dom Hartley-Harris. Dom is currently appearing in the UK and Ireland tour of Dreamgirls, where he's playing the role of Curtis Taylor Jr. The tour is coming to Nottingham's Theatre Royal from Tuesday the 17th to Saturday the 28th of May. Link for tickets down below, and I hope you enjoy this conversation with Dom.
So my name is Dom Hartley-Harris, and I play Curtis Taylor Jr. And Dreamgirls is about three aspiring musicians, a girl band at the start of the 60s, which is obviously a very pivotal moment in not only musical history, but when it comes to Black rights and Black artists moving forward to the progress that they have today. It was such a pivotal time. And it's it's all about soul music. It's about female empowerment. And my part in this is I use villain in quotation marks.
Yeah.
But, he starts out as a very ambitious car salesman who wants to break out into the music industry. And he becomes the Dreamgirls manager, the Dreamettes. Later the Dreams becomes their manager, and chaos kind of ensues.
Yeah. What kind of attracted you to the part?
What attracted me to the part? I feel like Curtis sometimes has had, well, all the time has had, and still does sometimes, but has like quite a bad rap and kind of when it comes to like the meatiness of the role or that kind of thing, and how much every character on stage is kind of put under a certain pressure, and not forgetting the time period it's in. So I think just having the freedom to perhaps bring something slightly new to the role, and then also the fact that it's such an iconic musical. And I was a massive fan of it when I was a teenager, when it first came out. As a film, obviously with Beyonce, Jamie Foxx, Eddie Murphy, made a star from Jennifer Hudson. And I think since then, when it was on the table, I was always just kind of like, it'd be lots of fun to be involved.
And as you say, kind of villain, do you kind of relish that kind of changing the audience's kind of perspective on the character a little bit?
I do relish it. I just kind of like, I've had a lot of people come up to me and say they were expecting to hate Curtis sooner, which I always relish in, because it's nice to say that it's kind of like a sad thing that come Act 2 he's became or turned into this guy where the power and the money and everything that he's done so far has paid off. Whether he thinks it's for people's best interests or not. I see that he does, until it's too far, and he's too far gone down the path of destruction to other people's lives, we can say. But yeah, I definitely relish the change in him through the show, for sure.
Yeah. And kind of, as you kind of mentioned earlier, kind of it's obviously set kind of in the 60s kind of time. Do you have to kind of, when you got the role, did you kind of research that period and everything?
Luckily enough, I've always been quite, I don't think obsessed is the word, but I've been very interested in like American history, because so much has happened. It's such a young country still, but so much has happened to influence not only the country, but like the world globally, that they move a lot faster than everywhere else. And so I was always very interested in that part of history anyway. So to be able to bring that onto the stage is definitely a big plus.
Yeah. And kind of, how do you kind of get into character? Obviously, you're quite a nice gentleman. How do you kind of get into that kind of ambitious kind of role?
Don't tell everybody. To get into character, I feel like it's just all, like the beginning, the middle, and the end of it is all just like starting to make him a really fleshed out character who doesn't start wanting to, don't begin at the end, if you get what I mean. He doesn't start wanting to hurt anybody or have this kind of like mustache twirling panto kind of like, who knows what he's doing is wrong. It's all just about intention, and it's about what does this character want, and how's he going to get it. And it's only, as I said, halfway through that it starts to become too much for other people. And he's by that point is too far gone. But yeah, I think getting into character is just all to do with taking it gradually and seeing it as like a whole, well-rounded character and real person. Try and make him as real as you can.
Yeah, and obviously this is the first kind of ever UK tour for the show. How kind of it's been that for you? Obviously, kind of everyone probably more knows the film, as you say, kind of that kind of it was obviously been around kind of 30 years before that though. How's kind of that been creating that for you?
I think it's great because there's so many differences. There's so many new, I say new songs. They're new to people who are watching the show because there was so much cut from the movie. Obviously to make it more cinematic and to make it a clearer journey on screen. But it's a nice surprise to be able to have people who are in the audience who have never heard certain elements of the music. So that's always fun. And then obviously as well, being able to do it every night, there's a lot more freedom in terms of it not just being like this one shot, one production that everyone gets to see forever. It can change depending on who's on or just reaction to what the other person does. Yeah,
and obviously kind of excitingly for you, kind of obviously Effie's kind of a shared role, isn't it? Kind of because that kind of obviously changed slightly, obviously their reaction to how you playing it a little bit, I suppose.
Yeah, because they're two very different. Obviously, the core of Effie is the same, and the journey that needs to happen to make the story clear for the audience. But they're two very different women, and just even if it's a slight difference, it will always, even subconsciously, kind of influence the way that you play that character off what they give you.
Yeah. Obviously, Dreamgirls is probably one of the kind of flagship musicals for diversity. Kind of how kind of, and obviously everything that's happened in the last couple of years. How important to yourself on a personal level is it that you're in this kind of show now?
It's hugely important in terms of, like you said, diversity and having such a huge cast of people that look like you. Is great, and to see even when it's like young audience members come to see that, to maybe that they're looking at that and saying, "Oh, I might be able to do that one day," and it not just be. Obviously, it's very much kind of like a piece of its time and telling a certain story when it comes to the history of America and Black people, Black music, and that kind of thing. But also just making them each character real and just not having to stay with a certain kind of like, this is them and that's it. It's nice to be able to bring that to a new audience.
Yeah. How kind of do you feel like the industry is kind of coping now in 2022 with kind of diversity
as a whole?
Yeah.
I feel like we're still getting there. We're still like coming back. But I think a lot of the time it's just kind of trying to bring the things that people loved about the theatre before, after so long of not being able to go, that it's kind of like a bombardment of kind of just saying, remember, this is why you were going to the theatre, and not always the cinema, or not always being at home watching something on TV, even though that was a saviour when it comes to lockdown. But being able to be back out of the house and see something, there's nothing fresher and there's nothing that compares to that live, visceral quality to live performance.
Yeah. And obviously during that pandemic, you kind of thankfully kind of did work kind of on rent and everything.
Yes. Yeah.
How's that kind of, did the pandemic kind of change your approach to your work at all?
I think it just kind of, the pandemic definitely it influences your like decision making and kind of taking each day as it comes and like relishing in what you can from each performance, and because you never know when you're not going to be able to do it again. Nowadays we're still always on that kind of glass floor to be kind of like, when's it gonna, if it does, fingers crossed we're never gonna have to go through anything like that again. But yeah, it's just kind of it brings it home at how singular it is, if you get what I mean, and how much of a special thing it is for people who love to be on stage and love to watch people on stage. What an opportunity that is. Yeah,
obviously you've played kind of quite big roles in your career already. Kind of, if you had to have one of your characters around for dinner, who would you
Yeah.
invite?
Oh wow. You know what? It's got to be Collins.
Yeah.
He's like a proper dude. He's cool. He wouldn't be too heavy in terms of like. I reckon you'd have a really, really decent night in, or night out, as it were. You never know with Collins where you're going to end up. And yeah, but he just seems really cool and one of the nicest characters I've definitely played.
And you were amazing in it. Let's put out.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Superb. I kind of obviously watched the stream, and then obviously I saw it live last year. It was amazing.
Yeah. Thank you so much. It means the world.
And also, you've been working on Apollo Live.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me a little bit about that for people who may not know what that is.
Yes, Apollo Live. Yes, Apollo Music, and I'm part of a band called the Show Band. And we've just kind of started, really. It all started with me depping for, it's a music company, live performance company.
Yeah.
And an enterprise. And they started out doing like weddings and then moving into kind of like corporate. But my band, as it were, is kind of like the biggest, not just in terms of numbers, but in terms of like scale. It's the biggest so far. And yeah, I started out depping for them. And then our manager, Andy Wan, of Apollo Music, he saw what I liked to do, the type of music, my performance style, and was like, this would be fantastic if we made a band around that performance style. So everything's went really big. It's like brass. They're throwing everything, brass, strings, lots of ballads, lots of kind of like Motown-esque soul songs, and like reinvention of certain like pop songs and chart songs now as well, to try and like make that bridge between the audiences. And yeah, so it's really exciting.
Amazing. I will put a link down for anyone who wants to kind of follow it, because I was kind of checking for earlier. It looks amazing. So I look forward to kind of watching that grow. Now I have some more, I call them quick fire questions, but I don't know what they are because I need to find a title for them. But these are more just about you generally.
Yeah.
The first one being, what was the first piece of theatre that you can remember seeing?
The first piece of theatre I remember seeing, I believe it was Fame in Birmingham, and my grandma took me to go and see it. Yeah, my nan took me to go and see it, and that must have been, oh gosh, I think I was in primary school, so it was single digits, and that was a new Alexander. It was the Alexander Theatre back then, but it's a new Alexander now. And yeah, it was Fame the musical.
Yeah, very good start. What would be kind of your personal favourite you've seen so far in your life, theatre-wise?
I mean, it's really hard to. I'm trying to take out the ones that I've been in.
Yeah.
Because I definitely went to see things before I was in them, which obviously made me want to be in them.
Yeah.
But you know what? It's out of two. I loved Gypsy at the Savoy.
Yeah. Yes.
Even if it like for the powerhouse barnstorming kind of performance that was Imelda Staunton.
Yes, great.
Rose. It was just kind of like seeing somebody that skilled, that talented, but that much kind of like. She's a tad older than me, but having somebody with that much gumption and energy, putting it into one performance, and knowing that she was doing that almost every single night, was like mind blowing to me. So I loved that. And then I have to say Hamilton, just like when I first saw that, it made me want to be in it.
Yeah,
listening to it was one thing, and then seeing it in flesh, it was like there was no contest. It was like, I have to be in this show.
Yeah, I'm glad you achieved that.
Thank you.
And kind of, do you have a favourite theatre that kind of either to work in or as an audience member to go to?
I've worked at the Coliseum.
Yes, of course.
So on terms of scale and how big that stage is, and the sound and like the feel and history of the place, I love the Coliseum in London. And I'm gonna go back to the Hope Mill. For me, in my memory, solely as well, because that it started off so like it's still kind of like has a fringe feel, but the scale to their kind of like scope when it comes to the work that they do and how close you are to the audience and how much the people involved in running the theatre care about theatre, that always will hold a special place in my heart. And then finally, I love Wales Millennium Centre.
Yes,
because it's just like a gargantuan building, and it's right on the doorstep of like the bay, and like the atmosphere just is second to none. And then everyone who works there as well is just fantastic.
Very good choices. If you weren't in theatre, what do you think you'd be doing with your life?
Wow. I'd probably teach.
Yeah.
I'd probably teach. Yeah. Whatever that might be, like just imparting wisdom to those who are younger. And as obviously, I think it comes naturally as when it comes to me being a dad of 3 as well. The idea of teaching is always in the back of my mind that one day, once I've accomplished, if I accomplish everything I want to do, it'll be a nice time where I hang up the costumes and go and impart what I've learned, perhaps. But yeah, it's a long road.
Yes, as a teaching assistant that I am, I wish you well with that. It's not the easiest job.
I know. That my kid's mom, she teaches too, and I remember her coming back and having all the marking, and all the lesson plans and all that kind of stuff. So I remember, and I don't envy anybody.
Yes, it's one of them jobs that doesn't end when it ends, it never ends, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But who would be kind of your biggest inspirations, kind of in your life?
In terms of the job, or just
either or, really?
Yeah. Professionally, like my first memory of somebody who again looked like me and just kind of set the path to what I wanted to do. And he's just passed actually. Recently, I think it might have been last year, or the beginning of this year. But Sidney Poitier, the first Black man to ever win Best Actor at the Academy Awards. I remember growing up on his movies. My mum definitely made an effort to put things on that had main characters that looked like the people in the house, and that was always such an amazing thing. The grace he carried and the ease at which he did what he did has always followed through when it comes to what I try to portray on stage or on screen. And then when it comes to non-professionally, like my nan, who got me into it, like we were like best mates, and she definitely, I don't think I'd be doing what I was doing if it wasn't for her and her seeing what I had in me and taking me to make me love theatre.
Very good, very good. What was the last TV show that you binged? I mean, it's probably hard when you're in a show, but
Succession. Like, it's just brilliant. It's like, I don't know if you know it. It's on. It's got Brian Cox in.
Oh yeah.
And it's about a media mogul, basically, and his empire, and basically his kids trying to vie for control of that, and him not really giving them the time of day. But it's quite a dark comedy, or dramedy, if you want to call it. And it's I think I binged like 3 seasons in a very, very quick time.
Very good. I will check it out. I think it's on Sky Now TV, I think.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
This is a harder question. If you could only listen to one album for the rest of your life, which album would you choose?
Wow. That is hard. That is really hard.
That is hard.
Probably Rumours. Fleetwood Mac.
Yeah.
I think it has a lot of. It seems like a really boring answer because it's. I think if you ask somebody about their album, sometimes it's definitely up there with the M5, but it's either that. If I'm going with like my teenage years, purely from nostalgia point of view, and influence in terms of like how I sing and that kind of thing. Confessions, Usher, I love. And that was definitely out when I was at secondary school. But there's so many. That was a very, very hard question.
That's a hard question. You'll have to do your own as well, because we need your own.
One day maybe.
On the list.
Or anything Gregory Porter. Anything Gregory Porter.
That's a shout.
I mean, I love it, man.
That's a great shout. This kind of almost can follow on then. What would be kind of one thing on your bucket list? Can be career, can be just general.
Yes, definitely to have. I mean, I want to travel a lot.
Yeah.
I can't say anywhere like indefinitely at the moment, just like saying like one specific place. No. But I want to travel like the world in one just do one of those when I've got the time and the cash.
Yeah.
Which is a hard thing being an actor.
Yeah, of course.
If you have the time, you don't have the cash, and if you have the cash, you don't have the time.
Yeah.
But hopefully one day, and then also having like an album of my own, and crossing a list and crossing a film off would be fantastic as well, because I reckon I love theatre, but my first love when it comes to being in this industry as a whole, because at me is in my family there wasn't much like when it comes to like money when I was a kid, and obviously as we know, theatre can be a little bit hard when it comes to that. So the next port of call was definitely TV and film, and cinema is definitely like my first professional love.
Amazing. This is a deeper question. Simply, what does theatre mean to you?
Theatre means to me, it transports people. I think it means escape for the people who are watching, and it transports people out of there, even if it's just for 2 hours. They can forget for a little while and get to know people that like characters that might make them think and learn.
That's a very good answer. What would be the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
Do the work. Just do the work.
Do the work, yeah.
If you do work, and will follow. Distracted on trying to fit and cram everything into a place where you know you should have like done or prepared more, then it's going to make your art lack. So just do the work.
Very wise. And my final question for you today is simply, why should an audience come and see Dreamgirls?
The audience should come and see Dreamgirls because it is fiery, it's passionate, it's got amazing performances, the costumes are incredible, the music is timeless, and we will always put on a great show for you.
And you're in it as well. That's always your reason. So,
me aside.
No. Well, thank you for your time today, Tom. People who are watching, the tour is on now till next year. It's in Nottingham from the 17th till the 28th of May, which is next week.